She carried no weapon, wore no uniform, and commanded no army. Yet where bullets flew and lives slipped away, she walked straight into the fire, not to fight, but to heal. Clara Barton was not a soldier, but she was a warrior in her own right. Through mud, blood, and chaos, she became a symbol of compassion in one of the darkest chapters of American history. This is the story of a woman who turned kindness into courage and founded a legacy that still saves lives today. Clara Barton was born in 1821 in North Oxford, Massachusetts. Shy, intelligent, and deeply sensitive, she grew up in a time when women were expected to stay in the background. But from a young age, Clara defied those expectations. She had a mind for detail, a strong will, and a natural instinct to help. At just 11 years old, she nursed her brother back to health after a serious injury, her first patient and her first experience with caregiving that required both skill and unshakable patience. As a young adult, Clara worked as a teacher and later became one of the first women to be hired by the U.S. Patent Office. But her destiny would not be found in a classroom or an office. When the Civil War erupted in 1861, she was working in Washington, D.C., and saw firsthand the suffering of soldiers returning from the front lines. They arrived without enough supplies, food, or medical care. Many were left to die without even basic attention. Clara could not stand by and watch. Without waiting for permission, she began collecting supplies. Bandages, clothes, food, anything that could help the wounded. She organized donation drives, stored supplies in her apartment, and personally delivered them to hospitals. But she soon realized the real need was not behind the lines. It was on the battlefield itself. Clara pushed past every barrier, gender, fear, danger, and went to the front. She became a one-woman aid operation. At a time when women were barely accepted in military hospitals, she was showing up in the middle of combat, tending to the wounded under fire. Soldiers began to call her the angel of the battlefield. She treated wounds, fed starving men, wrote letters for the dying, and comforted those in their final moments. She worked tirelessly, often going days without sleep, risking illness and injury herself. At Antietam, Fredericksburg, and other battlefields, her presence became a sign of hope amid devastation. But Clara's impact went beyond tending wounds. She was also a fierce advocate for the proper identification of missing soldiers. After the war, she opened the Office of Missing Soldiers and helped reconnect thousands of families with loved ones, alive or lost. She processed over 63,000 letters and helped locate more than 22,000 missing men. For those who had no graves, she helped bring closure. For those still searching, she became a last lifeline of compassion. Still, Clara Barton was not done. After a trip to Europe in the 1860s, she learned about the International Red Cross, a global movement to bring neutral humanitarian aid to those suffering in times of war. Inspired, she returned to the U.S. and began campaigning to bring the organization to American soil. It wasn't easy. The idea of a neutral relief organization was new, and many in government were skeptical. But Clara, as always, persisted. In 1881, she founded the American Red Cross. Under her leadership, it not only responded to wartime crises, but also to natural disasters, floods, earthquakes, hurricanes. She redefined humanitarian aid as something that must exist not just during war, but during every human emergency. Clara led the Red Cross until the age of 83. She traveled across the country, raised funds, organized disaster relief, and never stopped working. Her tireless devotion shaped the organization's values and mission for generations to come. She wrote extensively about her experiences, determined that the voices of those she served would not be forgotten. In her final years, Clara Barton lived quietly, but remained alert and active, always watching where help might be needed. When she passed away in 1912, she left behind no fortune, no family of her own, only a legacy of service and the millions who would one day be saved because she had chosen to step forward. Clara Barton never fought with a sword, but she changed the course of lives and history with bandages, bravery, and boundless empathy. She showed the world that compassion, when paired with action, can break through even the most entrenched suffering. Today, the Red Cross continues to save lives in her name, carrying forward her belief that no one in crisis should be left alone. She taught us that heroism doesn't always roar. Sometimes it kneels beside the wounded, writes a final letter home, or walks into danger simply because someone must. She was a woman ahead of her time, a healer in the middle of hell, and a testament to what one person can do when they choose to serve. Not in comfort, but in courage,